Alright, so for the past couple days, the new Superman trailer by James Gunn has just released, and let's talk about it. But before we do that, let's talk about James Gunn. James Gunn is an American filmmaker who has already made a plethora of superhero movies and shows. He has made all of the Guardians of the Galaxy movies, the Suicide Squad, and the Peacemaker series. So he already has a pretty big name in superhero movies. One of the many things people do like about James Gunn's filming direction is that he'll take a bunch of nobodies from the comic books and make them into actual superheroes. He's done it with the Suicide Squad, Peacemaker, and can't forget Guardians of the Galaxy. All of these movies and TV shows would have probably flopped if it was not for James Gunn. James Gunn has made a name for himself from taking these dark, gritty characters in the comics and making them into bright characters that symbolize hope. But let's talk about his newest movie coming out, Superman. I've heard a bunch of opinions online saying how they don't like David Cornsweet as Superman and they're so used to Henry Cavill and that they don't like the suit. Now, when I first watched the trailer, I instantly started getting really excited because this is the first solo Superman movie that we've had in almost 12 years. And the last live-action appearance that we've had of Superman in a movie is Black Adam, and that went absolutely nowhere. They brought Henry Cavill back as Superman, and they did nothing with it. But the last Superman movie that we got, it was all dark and gritty, and it was directed by Zack Snyder, which, to this day, I don't think is a bad movie. But James Gunn is taking this movie and making it all bright and colorful. One of the things that I did not like about how Zack Snyder directed his Man of Steel movie is that Superman never represented hope in that movie. The main reason why I think the DCEU kind of fell apart is that they tried so hard to compete with what Marvel was doing and it just never worked out. There's so many movies in the DCEU that could have been great if they just did not try to compete with Marvel. That's one of the things that James Gunn is not going to do. He's not going to try to compete with Marvel. He's going to take his time with setting up his new DC universe. Let's talk about the casting for the movie. Of course, we have David Cornsweet as Superman, Clark Kent, but what about the others in the trailer? We have Rachel Brosnahan playing Lois Lane, Nicholas Hoult playing Lex Luthor, Isabella Merced as Hawkgirl, Nathan Fillion as Guy Gardner, Green Lantern, Eddie Gathegi as Mr. Terrific, and finally Anthony Carrigan as Metamorpho. And already, what a great cast of characters and villains. But let's talk about the suit of Superman. Now, in my opinion, I love this suit. I think it's bright and colorful, and it even has Superman's logo on the back of his cape, which already is a great addition to the suit, because in the Action Comics, Superman's logo is yellow and it's on the back of his cape. But let's talk about the elephant in the room, the trunks. Now, a lot of people do like this addition to the suit. I mean, it was in the comic books, and even the first live-action Superman wore this on the outside of his suit. So I don't have a problem with this addition to the suit at all. Now let's talk about Superman's symbol on his chest. Now, the symbol is what Superman means. It's a symbol of hope. Now, I do really like the way they did it in Man of Steel because it looks really, really good. But here, it took me a while to really look at it in a certain way, but I do really like this logo. A lot of people flat out hate the way this suit looks. They don't like how baggy it looks because on set it does look pretty baggy, but I'm sure in the movie it'll look different. I remember when the Batman movie came out and everybody hated the way the suit looked and everyone hated how they signed Robert Pattinson to play Batman. And 2.5 years later, everybody is begging for Robert Pattinson to come back for Batman Part 2. Now, me personally, I love Superman's suit just as much as I loved Batman's suit. But overall, the Superman suit looks amazing in my opinion. One thing I never really liked about Zack Snyder's directing of Superman was how he did Clark Kent. In that movie, Clark Kent was never a real, nerdy person. In Man of Steel, I always felt that Superman and Clark Kent were the same person. I mean, I know they are, but it's supposed to be completely different. Clark Kent is supposed to be a nerdy person that nobody would expect to be Superman. Kind of like how Peter Parker is with Spider-Man. Alright, now, my final thoughts on this movie is that it looks awesome. It looks like it's going to be a great, fun movie to watch, and a great movie for all superhero and Superman fans. You may hate how it looks now, but when the movie comes out, I'm sure your opinion will be 110% different. I remember when The Batman came out, and the trailers for that started to come out. I remember when people kinda was on the trailer, but since the movie came out, everybody and their grandma wants more The Batman merchandise and more movies. And side note, I am still really pissed off how The Batman Part 2 won't be able to come out until 2027. A full 5 years after the first one came out. But overall, I do feel like Superman is in really good hands with James Gunn. James Gunn is going to take this movie and make it something. I feel like people are going to talk about this movie for generations to come.